Okay, then let's consider the variations in gender, the main example and topics for this chapter, especially for the second part of this chapter. Men and women tend to use slightly different language styles, and they tend to be quantitative rather than qualitative. Meaning women use a particular speaking style different from men do, or more than one do, sometimes. And other variations in speech patterns of men and women include pitch, tone, speech filler. For example, in Chinese, we sometimes say 那个,那个, 然后, and girls, women tend to use 这样子, something like this. And also the use of euphemism. Okay, following is the example of an analysis of Chinese language and gender. Okay, first we need to distinguish the meaning of two concepts, sex and gender. Sex refers to different biologically or physiologically forms. So we can distinguish male from female about their sex. They often are related to sexual hormone or sexual organ. While gender refers to those involving behavioral and cultural traits. For example, sometimes we say masculine or feminine. They refers to their characteristics or cultural traits. For example, we can distinguish woman from man or girl from boy according to their behavior or cultural traits rather than their sexual features. So gender is something related to psychological or social cultural traits. This way, 性, in Chinese we use the same term, 性, right? So this way, gender emphasizes on the 性 of 个性, 性质, these features, characteristics, rather than sex. Okay, they both matters. I mean the physical and cultural difference between these two sex or gender. They also function for the speech sounds of different gender. For example, you can observe the illustration here. Women tend to have shorter vocal tract and vocal folds than males. That means the shape, the appearance of their vocal tract here, shorter than male. And the appearance of the vocal folds also different. For example, here illustrate the difference of the male vocal folds on the left here and there of a female on the right. They have different shapes. Generally speaking, the male vocal folds is longer than female and broader. So this is the main reason why they pronounce differently. They show different pitch, absolute pitch actually, of a voice of a male and female. This is their physiological differences. While on the other hand, the gender mode of a different gender, woman and man, also matters. This is something cultural. Let's think a question. It is a universal sociolinguistic gender pattern that way. I mean, it is a common tendency or not that men tend to use non-standard language more often than women. In Chinese context, sometimes we say man 口拙 or 嘴笨. It is more often happened than women do. Okay, here is an opposite example of study showing sometimes women, or to be specific, girls, tend to pronounce inaccurate or unstandard than men do. It is called traditional femininity Mandarin pronunciation, 女国音. It is a linguistic variable of fronting, the change of the position of pronunciation of consonants. It is a group of palatal consonants in Beijing Mandarin. To be specific, it is the mispronunciation of 机器息 into 子词 si in particular syllables. This is the study from the study of Hu Mingyang, which is very famous. For example, younger women tend to pronounce 精神 like in 精神, 切除 like in 切除, 爱情 like in 爱情, 喝酒 like in 喝酒, to use 子词 si instead of 机器息. So what is the purpose of this alveolar consonant pronunciation? Some scholars explain that it's a symbolize of virginity, which is a traditional cultural image of Chinese woman, because traditionally it is associated with a good manner in speaking that way for women, because in that way the pronunciation, the mouth is relatively more closed. 姐, 小姐 instead of 姐, 姐, 姐. The mouth is relatively more closed. According to that study, it appears around the time of puberty of young girl, and usually disappear after marriage of the speaker. So you're not supposed to observe a senior woman speak that way. It only happens for younger girls. Okay, sometimes we use the labels of femininity and masculinity. For example, in Chinese, we sometimes mentioned 娘娘腔, refers to a boy or man who does not demonstrate masculine traits, speak in a woman way, or womanish speak. In English, we use the term sissy or sissy boy, sissy man, sissy pants to refer to those people. On the opposite, if a girl or young woman with masculine traits, we use the term 假小子 or tomboy. For example, you can distinguish speech of women from men in Chinese using such features. Women prefer modal particles of 哒, 萌萌哒 is a buzzword used particularly by little girl rather than senior man. Le ne or de la, those final particles used particularly more frequently by women. And these interjections like 哎呀 or 妈呀, 天哪, those expressions are commonly used by women. And expressions like 讨厌死了 or use 人家 to refer to herself. So what about men? Do men use such expressions? So there are also gender preferential vocabularies. For example, we all use form of address to refer to the person we are talking to, and there are different ways to express. Sometimes we directly call the full name of the other person, for example, including the given name and surname. For example, 张强, I say 张强, or Wang Hongxia used to refer to another person. This way is something genderless. That means can be used by women and men both. Well, what about only use the given name? For example, I call a person 建军 or 小文. It is more common for men to use that way. And you can consider the situation when the woman and the man is not very familiar with each other. It is not very natural for the woman to call 建军 of the other person directly. This way is usually used by more closer familiar people. And what about A plus the given name, 阿玲, or 阿勇, 阿海? This is something similar to the situation for the second, to refer to the given name, because they sounds like a nickname, 阿玲, 阿勇, 阿海, and show more close relationship. And similarly, the 小丹, 小 plus name. Or sometimes we use the surname or the given name plus 哥 or 姐, 李哥, 海哥, or 陈姐, 梅姐. What's the differentiation of the tendency used by women and men of those categories you can consider? And also sometimes we use only the last syllable. For example, 张玲, we call her 玲 or 强. This is something happened between very familiar people. And also the duplicated last syllable. For example, if a man called a woman 丹丹 or 玲玲, it sounds more natural, rather than, for example, a woman who is not very familiar with me call me 宁宁, even though it is my nickname in my family. Okay. And the other terms can be used from the relatives. For example, 兄弟 or 兄大哥, or 姐姐妹子. 姐姐 is more often used for unfamiliar people in public, used by Tianjin native. And 妹子 is more popular in northeast region in China. While 叔叔 or 大叔 or 阿姨 are commonly accepted among the country. And consider the last situation when you call another person 同学 or 先生. 小姐, 小姐 sounds strange sometimes nowadays, right? Or 小朋友. Okay, they are, I think, all genderless terms for to be used. For example, woman speaker or man speaker can also use 同学 or 小朋友 to refer to others. Depends on situations. We can also consider gender tendencies in apology. Generally speaking, women use more apology strategies than men do. And women tend to offer more specific reasons than men do when refusing. This can explain why women sound more polite than men do to refuse. And the proportion of women using salutation is higher than other men do. This also contributes that results. And women use more hesitancy than men do. For example, such expressions show more reluctance. Here's a chart illustrating a questionnaire or a study conducted by Yan Zhifeng in 2007, focusing on the strategies to refuse by different gender speakers. For example, you can notice that when refuse somebody else, women tend to apologize more than men. And they tend to thank more than men also. And they use salutation more than men. And sometimes they also provide other choice to give help to the person they speak. And they express more hesitation. While on the other hand, when refusing someone else, men tend to criticize the person they're speaking. This makes men more impolite. Okay, when respond to the compliments, men and women also tend to perform differently. For example, if another person flattered you and the response tend to be approval or agree more for men than women. This sometimes can be explained as men do not focus more on the experience of other person than women do. Okay, unfortunately, we need to mention the sexism in dirty words between different gender language. It is more often to use offensive words toward women than toward men. For example, it's very common patterns of the dirty words in Chinese is 我 v 你 n means I verb your noun or 我 v 他 n. Okay, verb here commonly used those following examples and nouns as shown as here. They're very impolite, but all of them are related to the sexual behavior, and they are all offensive, meaning toward women, except this one. And also there are gender discrimination in many languages, including Chinese. For example, there's an asymmetry between the male and female words in the language. Usually male words are unmarked. That means there's no particular mark used for a word if it is referred to men, while female words are marked. For example, in the expression of 职业女性, emphasize the professional woman, while there's no expressions of a 职业男性, because the presupposition is that all the men are professional, they all have job. Similarly, in the phrase of 女强人, well, there's no counterpart of 男强人, because the presupposition is that all the men are able, but only a small part of women are able. An uneven situation you can also find in the terms of 国王 or 女王. 国王 is the king of a country, of a state, of a nation, while 女王 emphasized the gender here. And similarly, 士兵 or 女兵. And interestingly, 司机 and 女司机, you can also consider the negative implication of 女司机. And you can compare those cases with, for example, 保姆. 保姆, nanny, is typically a profession of woman, so there is a term of 男保姆 to emphasize the gender. While in English we used many to refer to 男保姆, which is parallel to nanny. The situation here is slightly different between English and Chinese. Okay, we can also find gender discriminations in traditional Chinese. For example, a woman takes her husband's last name after marriage, and it is a transcultural actually, because it's also common in other language and other culture. For example, in Chinese context, 张太太 means the wife here is not her surname is Zhang, but her husband's name is Zhang. Similarly, Li Nanai refers to she is the wife of Li Yeye. And those idioms insulting women are very common rather than men. For example, 婆婆妈妈, the literal meaning of 婆婆妈妈 is 婆婆 here means the senior woman, mama means mommy or mom, while the whole idioms here, 婆婆妈妈, has very negative implication. And similar things also can be found in 女流之辈, 女流, and 妇人之见, or 红颜祸水. Good looking might not be a good thing. 长舌妇, 头发长见识短, 丑媳妇怕见公婆. Okay, here this example might not refer to a wife or a woman. It can be that metaphor can be used in any situation. Means a person or a thing they are not to be publicized, but they use the expression in 丑媳妇, an ugly wife. 寡妇门前是非多 is about the marriage of a widow. And other negative expressions including 悍妇, 荡妇, 破烂货, 剩女, 老处女, those are insulting expressions toward women. While there is no such counterparts in the situation of man, 小老虎 here the literal meaning is a small tiger, while it refers to a lovely baby or a lovely boy especially, while 母老虎 refers to a woman. 雄狮 sometimes refers to man, while 河东狮吼 similarly has negative implication. Okay, for the discourse patterns, the typical topics of conversation between men and women are also different. For example, men tend to talk about topics like politics, economy, technology, and sports, while women tend to talk about social life, family, clothing, and beauty. And for conversational attitudes, men and women are also different. For example, men tend to strive to dominate the conversation and show a kind of power relationship, while women's words style usually be referred to as the powerless language, especially English. And men tend to be more definitive and swear more when speaking, while women speak more softly, hesitantly, and ambiguously. Besides, women pay attention to listening and responding, show more respect to the speaker, while men are more straightforward and use less delicate rhetoric devices. And here is an observation. For example, both men and women say when someone is talking, while woman means by mean here, she's listening. And man usually means he agrees. And men tend to think women agree everything. This is the result. So it's hard to tell what women really think. On the other hand, women think that men don't always listen to them. So the body language between men and women also differs. For example, men tend to use more gestures to convey information when speak, and women tend to use more facial expressions and eye contacts. So in summary, let's give a hypothesis to explain the cause of the gender difference. First, it might be because of the social division of labor. And in ancient time, for example, traditionally, women were more domestic for caring children, so they need more communication for education. They communicate more, they express themselves more, they use language more accurately than men do. They're more talkative. Okay, so and second, social status and psychology, because traditionally women tend to be more vulnerable of their physiological feature, so they need dedicated rhetoric devices when speaking, especially to men. And the last possible reason could be the socioeconomic status. For example, traditionally men tend to support the family, so men like to dominate the conversation. They hold the right of speech, even today. Okay, this is the end of this chapter. Thank you for listening. I'm looking forward to you attend to my next chapter, last chapter. Thank you. Bye-bye.